80s for you here.
It's a good year. I've reviewed almost every single movie that we've discussed.
All right, so I'll take, and then you can go to Movies, Films, and Flicks the day after this episode is released, and you can vote on this poll. Doesn't matter who. I lose most of these. I lose a lot of polls, but I pick teams I love. I got smashed on a A24 horror poll earlier today, but I picked the movies I loved, so I'm happy. I'm going
to be honest. If you had announced at the beginning, if you had reminded at the very beginning, John, you have first pick, and you can pick Re-Animator, I would have picked still Life Force first.
Yeah, John, you've been talking about Life Force for your entire life.
That is a sci-fi epic. And like this movie, it pushes the envelope. There's so much nudity. There's so much big, huge set design. There's so much high concept. Like, there's so much Patrick Stewart.
If you know what's interesting, John? I'm looking at these movies right now, and Fright Night was wildly influential and still popular. But then you look at Freddy's Revenge, Return of the Living Dead, Re-Animator, Life Force. There were some funky horror movies released in '85. This wasn't just status quo horror cinema. I mean, Freddy's Revenge has built its own cult. Bub is still popular. The Return of the Living Dead. It's such an odd, bonkers movie with the punks and just the rain. And I mean, even the stuff, this is a funky year for horror, I would say. So it's kind of fun to cover.
I'm a huge fan of the stuff, too. Gosh, so big.
Would you say it's good stuff?
It's great stuff. It's addictive stuff.
But yeah, you know what's interesting? So when we were watching this movie, we've watched movies with Megan before, and she hasn't been that big of a fan, my wife Megan, but she really enjoyed this film. She had a great time with it because it's really sort of, we can't figure out words for this movie, John. It's very odd. And you look at the tomato, this movie has a 93% Rotten Tomato score. It has a 7.2 IMDb score. That's big.
For 80s horror, especially, yeah.
I look at a lot of IMDb and tomato meter scores, and this is a rare 97, like 90, plus 90s, plus 7s on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. So it seems like this movie is basically universally on board. And you know what I think it is, John? You were talking about this. As you watch The Thing, when you're young, you're like, where's the monster? Then when you get older, you're like, I love this. When you watch, this is a really random comparison, but when you watch Ferris Bueller, you watch it and it goes kind of bad because you're like, I love Ferris. And you get older and you're like, I hate this creep. And then you watch Starship Troopers when you're 12 and you just see all the action, blood and guts and Verhoeven-y. Then you get older and you
see all the commentary.
Yeah, you get the commentary and the fascism and the commercials and just the and then you know, oh, this is also Verhoeven, but he blended in these different quadrants. Re-Animator, when you watch it, I didn't get to watch this as a child, but if I watched it as a kid, I would have loved it because of just the cheeky gags and like Barbara Crampton and just all the blood and the guts and the explosions. And then you watch it at 18 and you're like, this is still great. And then you watch it at 25 and you go, hey, this is still really fun. And then you get to 39, my age, and you watch it and you're like, this is under 90 minutes. And this is like pretty fun and good filmmaking. Like this is a very exuberant movie. It doesn't.
Dr. Hill has some great lines.
Exactly, but it doesn't. I wouldn't say it evolves with time. But I've only watched it once, so I can't give that perspective. You can, but I do think that it's like an all ages type film, like that remains fun throughout. You talked about Silver Bullet, John. I watched that as a kid, and you got the kid, and you got Gary Busey, and when you have kids movies with kids in horror movies, this is great. But then you get a little older, and you're like, This one, I think, it just stays a nice, solid, constant, bonkers little movie. It's like Evil Dead for me. But even Evil Dead has evolved. When I was a child, when I was like 12 when I first watched it, I kind of thought, oh man, this is crazy. This is bonkers. Like, who is this guy? This dude's awesome. Like, groovy. I'm like, whoa. Army of Darkness, primitive screwheads. Who is this boss? And then you get older and you're like, man, this guy's a loser, but I love him. Does this movie have that evolution for you, or is it always just fun?
That's tough to say. It's always fun. I think it's tough for us, I think, to relate to most random horror movie viewers because there's so many movies that we have watched more than 5 times in our life that we're good at realizing the differences that we see in movies. Whereas I think a lot of people they don't notice it unless there's someone to talk to right after you saw it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not as skilled at picking out what was different for you. And then it won't linger in your head. So in many ways, my lab technician, Mike, in the entomology lab, he likes to joke to me. He says, John, you've ruined watching movies for me. You've ruined it, because whenever I watch, I think about this, or I think, oh, they did this because it was cheap, or, oh gosh, now I notice this lousy set design, or, oh gosh, now I notice like this, that, and the other. Like, he notices things that he never would have thought about because he's heard me ramble so many times, or he's listened to our podcast with me so many times. And at the same time, though, he's just joking. But now he's wearing the sunglasses and they live, though, now.
Mm-hmm.
He just got them. He now notices things that people don't ever think of, but once someone says it a couple times, you just say, aha. And I think that's tough for us to relate movies unless we're seeing a movie for the first time. And even then, we're used to reacting to certain things that I think are like the numbers in the Matrix that no one else sees.
Yeah.
Not no one else. There are a lot of movie, buffs out there. But I feel like there's this movie buff vision where, like Joe Pantaleone is saying, you see a bunch of numbers running down the screen, I see blonde, brunette, redhead, right?
Yeah.
I think that we see that all too often. And this is, such a weird meta conversation. But it makes it hard for me to relate to how other people would watch a movie over time compared to how I watch a movie over time.
Or what about you? How has this evolved for you over time?
So I think that for me, the big jump is that I hadn't seen it much. I probably went like 15 years without seeing it.
Oh, wow.
I probably saw it. I saw it once a year or two ago when I did a full Re-Animator franchise review. I saw it twice getting ready for this. So that's 3 times in the last couple years. And I probably saw it 6, 7, 8 times from my teen years to my early 20s. But there's this big gap where I didn't see it for a very long time. And now when I watch it, I think it's my movie reviewer head, if you will. When I have that hat on when I watch, I notice things like how great all the characters are, whereas most people just experience it. You just like the movie more because Dr. Hill has great lines when he's peeling back that skin of that cadaver on the head, right? Mm-hmm. And he makes the comment about peeling an orange. You just like the character more. You don't know why. You don't even realize you like that character more. You just like the whole movie more. Whereas I hone in on it. I partition it, and I see all these little factors, the little things that make this movie better. Whereas when I used to watch it, I saw all the things that made the movie great, not the things that made the movie better. I saw Jeffrey Combs is great at being a dedicated, manic, focused, monomaniacal megalomaniac, right? I loved the effects and the wow moments and the nudity because I was young, right? And how grossly sinister Dr. Hill was. Whereas now I like why Dr. Hill is so grossly sinister. I how Jeffrey Combs is so effective at being monomaniacal. So it's the whys and the hows and not the whats that are in the forefront of the screen that I like now. And so, and watching those, I feel like I see a lot of those things for the first time in the last several years, mm-hmm. Even though I've seen the movie half a dozen times before. It never occurred to me how much I liked that morgue security guard.
Yeah.
And now, I love this guy. But the thing is that 25-year-old John probably did have his movie-going experience enhanced by morgue security guard. It's just that 25-year-old John, if you asked him his 100 favorite things about the movie, that wouldn't have even been thought about. Whereas now, it's very obvious. What a smart decision. People thought to do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like when you comment on the number of candelabras on a set.
Yeah. Why? How are there that many?
Or on Ready or Not. You
yeah.
almost lost it talking about the candelabras. You're used to running around with them.
Oh man. Yeah. That kind of blew my mind.
But it's the little things.
Yeah.
As we get older, I think it's the little things. But it's not just that we're older. I think it's that we like a birder learning the bird songs. We don't just recognize the birds when we see them. Now we know the birds for their songs.
And you know what? Oh, sorry, go for it. Sorry.
No, that's just it. It's like, so now we've learned to notice things that we didn't know how to notice before, and it's autopilot. And it gives us a different layer of appreciation of things. When you're 25, you love red wine because it got you drunk. When you're 35 or 40, like, oh no, but I really like this one more because it's a little more floral, and I don't like those big over the top Napa cabs with the big alcohol and fruit bombs. You know, like
the weather was better in the fall for this vintage.
Right. No, but right. It's just you appreciate things more thoughtfully.
And what's interesting too about this movie is it seems like a good hangout picture. So I love A Knight's Tale. I love Evolution. You know, you got like Super Troopers. You watch those movies, and since they're good hangout pictures, you never analyze them because you just put them on and you watch them. Re-Animator seems like that kind of movie because there's really no heaviness in it. Like when Megan Halsey finds out about her dad, she just kind of goes back. Like, she's pissed off justifiably at Dan Kane, but they get over that so quickly. This is a movie where, you know, you're expelled. Okay, well, we'll sneak into the morgue and do this. Like, it moves so quickly. There's no time for a reconciliation or any of that. So it propels itself. So it's a good hangout picture. So you just kind of let it. You
tend not to feel gravity.
Yeah, you just put it on and you just enjoy it. It's like a hangout picture. Knight's Tale. We covered that on the podcast, and it's been a really fun, popular episode. But after listening to all the commentaries and exploring the making of videos, now I see it completely different. But I've been watching it for years, just letting it wash over me. Like, I didn't even think about lighting or structure or any of that. Like, I never even, like, I was like, yeah, cool. It's like they're putting modern music in. It's fine. Like, I didn't even need to analyze that. Like, I get it. Like, he wants a vibe. And so I wonder if that, too, like with Re-Animator, if you just, it just seems like a nice, really propelled, there's really not too much drama in it. I mean, he gets expelled from Germany. He immediately has a thing over there. Then he becomes a butt. Then they get a cat. And then they go rescue a bodybuilder. The dad dies. And then we learn that Dr. Carl Hill learns about it, gets the dad, lobotomizes him. And then they even cut out a subplot about hypnotizing. And then they all meet at the end inside of the morgue where they've all been in a big naked fight. So it's just such like a quick propulsion, like they propel it so quick. You know, I don't know. I just wish more horror movies would do that. I have no problem with what's up.
Every use of the reagent in the movie results in something bigger, bolder, messier, more chaotic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single individual use, it's a level up. The cat, Schwarzenegger's body double, Dean Halsey because of the stakes, Dr. Hill because of the way it happens and what develops from that, and then 89 naked bodies running around, right?
Yep.
Like it just keeps staking up. You know, it's fun. I said there were no stakes. I was wrong. There's one scene in this movie that has stakes. You know, the end of Critters, you see the critter eggs, and you're just like, wink, right? You see the movie Arachnophobia. At the end, a little spider crawls over something. Wink, like, maybe sequel or wink or something like that. In this movie, they do that, but it is maybe the moment with the most gravity of the whole film. And that is at the end of everything. Jeffrey Combs is literally being asphyxiated by reanimated intestines. All those naked zombies are going nuts. By now, no joke, morgue security guard is probably dead, right? I mean, and Dan, for everything that he's seen this. It never works out well. It always turns out horrible. Everyone comes back feral and manic and elements of pure chaos, like something from the goddamn Event Horizon. But because he loves Megan, he's going to inject her and just so insanely, blindly hope that somehow this is different. It's the most idiotic thing you could do, but I get it. And when he at the very end, and that's when they pull on the violins again with the music to roll you into the credits with that Re-Animator music. And like that scene, every time I see it now, the last few viewings, it's like, oh God. Like it's like someone squeezing my heart when he goes to do that.
Yeah, because